An old woman of 82, she gazed out from her dusty house towards the path to a bustling town, though here 'twas quiet as a mouse. But there were no mice in her yard, under the floorboards or inside, for it was also the loving home of 16 cats, all free to roam, and who were otherwise tossed aside. She lost her family long ago, and took in a cat so soft of fur. She named him Lucky as she smiled. It brought her joy to hear him purr. She rescued more from off the streets, from garbage piles and alleyways, and took them to her forest house, far from the town, where they could play. One day she heard a dreadful cry coming from a nearby tree. She looked up to the branches high and saw it was her own Lucky. At 82 she climbed that tree and saved her cat, who made it down, but on the way her grip gave out, and she toppled to the ground. Some locals came to check on her, but her body was never seen, and if someone had cared to comment, the cats now numbered 17. A bitter landscape, frosted white, she grew up in this icy cold. A glowing flame, her one refuge, in a place where most died before growing old. One day she lost her only child, to the frozen winter winds. So for a time she lost herself and searched for answers deep within. But the fire in her spirit soared. Come spring she led her people out to a land with sun and trees, a place where fragile life could sprout. She left their boats upon the beach, reminders of their journey down. With tall trees lining water's edge, a ray of sunlight cast a crown. The village ever looked to her for the strength she could impart, and in old age she died in peace. Her fire lived on inside their hearts. He saw injustice in this world, and witnessed countless violent crimes, and even carried many out, a product of his place and time. The more he grew, the more he thought. Perhaps his family was wrong. The world was not his enemy. Causing pain did not make one strong. With this in mind, he ran away and vowed to use his strength for good, to make amends for his past sins by doing everything he could. He roamed about from town to town, making a living here and there, but never stayed for very long, just passing through like summer's air. He rescued those from unjust chains and fought against corrupted men, returning children to their homes before going back out again. Legends of a nameless hero swept through the countryside, as many followed in his steps, even long after he had died. A shallow beauty, young and vain, she stared down at her mirrored face, the water's surface calm and cool, reflecting all her charm and grace. The boys would pass and call to her, but she would not look up to see, for though they all had pretty words, none were beautiful as she. One evening she snuck out to think, but soon the town bells chimed aloud, and birds were flying in the night, back towards the town, a monstrous cloud. The town was soon engulfed in red. People shouted, children screamed, as fires continued to spread. Orange light atop the grasses gleamed. She cried out for her family, and thought to help, at first concerned, but knew the flames might mar her skin, so at the fork away she turned. After the fires were all put out, she slowly made her way to town, and saw the place her home had stood. The flames had burned it to the ground. A neighbor saw her standing there, and yelled at her. Where had she been? That night her parents stayed inside to search for her and died within. From then on no one smiled at her, or even waved or called her name, and so, alone, she lived and died, her beauty faded into shame. His stories, known throughout the realm, beloved by people young and old, were tales finely rooted in truth, a poetry with purpose told. This storyteller lived for work, telling tales of courageous lives, of men and women who risked it all, even those who did not survive. From the time he was a little boy to the time his hair had turned to grey, he feverishly penned his words through the night and into day. Some friendships started here and there, but never lasted very long. With little time he had to spare, he much preferred his written song. And so his life went on like this, yet his own story never shined, for no one knew just who he was, only the words he left behind. When she was but a little girl, she climbed her father's shoulders high to see the merchant ships sail in and watch their flags wave in the sky. She grew up strong and filled with love for every creature, big and small, for all the trees and flowers too, through summer, winter, spring and fall. Her village prospered from the trade of coconuts and other fruit, but one day she unveiled a truth that gave way to a great dispute. Foreigners would come and go, providing silver and support, but secretly what they would do was hunt the wildlife for sport. She thought herself just so naive to think all people thought like her, and in her way she fought the trade of killing for just claws and fur. Her actions came with hidden costs, with village leaders led by greed. Dark business they relied upon deafened them to hear her plead. She took matters into her hands and freed the animals from traps. A panther cub licked her in thanks, with healing leg all tied in wraps. She lived outside the village lines and snuck around at morning's light. But clever men then trapped her too. Their greedy eyes were her last sight. Once there was a gentle boy who loved to play with little frogs. Each day he'd watch them hop around atop the lily pads and logs. One day he tried to join them too. Being careful to step around, he'd hop onto a river rock and hop again back to the ground. For many months he jumped and played, until the time he slipped and fell. Yet no one noticed since that day. The frogs had disappeared as well. She grew up on a pirate ship, taken when she was just 14. Her duties were to smile and dance, swab and polish, cook and clean. One day she caught the captain's eye. She smiled at him and he smiled back. 6 months later they were wed, though his heart was cold and black. She turned the pirates one by one to venerate her every wish, and within weeks the captain died, from poison slipped into his dish. From the discord she proclaimed that she would be their pirate queen, commanding them with love and strength, of which they had not before seen. For many years she ruled alone, plundering shores of nearby lands. Then one day they captured a man, his hair made up of golden strands. She ordered them to spare his life. An odd request they did obey, and over time she fell in love, little by little, day by day. She wed the man with golden hair, his smile sparkled in her eye, until one meal she fell quite ill, and watched that smile as she died.